As a teenage clerk on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange in 1971, Ray Dalio recognized a fusion of political and economic circumstances over the years that he had never seen before. Large-scale political and social unrest within nations, particularly the U.S., as a result of the largest wealth, political, and value disparities in more than a century. The rise of a world power, China, to challenge the existing world power, the U.S., and the existing world order, and the massive printing of money in the three major reserve currencies of the world. This convergence didn't happen again until the years 1930 to 1945. This insight prompted Dalio to look for the recurring trends and cause and effect links that underlie all significant shifts in wealth and power during the last 500 years. Dalio discusses the Dutch, the British, and the Americans in his book Principles of Life-Changing World Order, putting into perspective the big cycle that has shaped the achievements and failures of all the world's great nations throughout history. He exposes the timeless and universal forces causing these changes and uses them to project the future while providing useful principles for setting oneself up for the future. How Ray Dalio learned to anticipate the future by studying the past. According to Ray Dalio, the United States had a financial crisis in 1971 and went into default on its loans. Yes, you heard that correctly. The USA was in a monetary crunch. At that time, paper money like the US dollar was essentially a checkbook with little value, so gold was utilized as a medium of exchange. At the time, the United States was spending a lot more than it was making. By creating more paper checks, they achieved this. People went to the bank to exchange these checks for gold money, and before long, the amount of gold in the US started to dwindle. As more Americans hurried to convert their dollars, it was clear that the US would run out of cash. Things got so bad that President Nixon aired a message declaring that the US was unable to pay its debt. By the way, he coined the phrase in his speech rather than saying it out loud. Dalio was shocked to see the stock market rise by about 25% and the currency devalue, something he had never seen before. He quickly learned that a comparable incident had occurred in 1993 and had the same outcome. Due to U.S. expenditures exceeding its gold reserves, there was also a scarcity of U.S. dollars. At the same time, President Roosevelt also said that he would violate the nation's commitment to exchange currencies for gold. The government constantly runs out of money because it spends considerably more than it takes in, Ray Dalio noted. And he's learned from his study of history that this same thing has happened many times before. Since they need more money, they create more of it, which decreases its value as the prices of all goods, including stocks and gold, continue to climb. Whenever the central bank creates a lot of money to ease a crisis, Dalio advises everyone to remember this principle and buy equities, gold, and other commodities, since their value will rise while that of paper money will decline. Dalio's experiences led to another principle which states that one needs to understand what happened before to understand what will happen in the future. Dalio took note of three things. First, countries who are not able to meet up with their debts, even with reduction of interest rates, rely on their central bank to print more money. The second observation made by Dalio was that big internal conflicts always happen due to growing gaps in wealth and values. The third is the increase in external conflict between a rising great power and the leading great power, with China and the US as examples. Before we dive deeper, you can support us by subscribing to our channel and becoming a member of our community. Now, let's move on. The changing world order. Ray Dalio stated that these three things had happened before, and that most times it led to changing domestic world orders, with the last sequence which took place from 1930 to 1945. For Dalio, these recurrences are simply described as an order. Every nation has a constitution that outlines its internal system of government, and treaties outline the international system that governs relations among nations. These orders, internal and world order, are constantly changing, especially after wars. After the American Revolution, the U.S. internal order was laid off in the Constitution in 1789. The American world order, which is the current, was formed after the Allied victory in World War II, with the United States as the dominant world power. He cited that these changes always take place in a timeless and universal cycle, which he refers to as the big cycle. Ray Dalio's big cycle. Dalio states that the struggle to create, seize, and distribute power has the most influence on people. People who own the means of production are wealthy. To enact laws, they collaborate with politicians. All empires experience this in the same way. Over time, fewer people will have increasing amounts of wealth and influence. Then they overextend and fail. This harms the less fortunate and triggers conflicts. A new empire replaces the old one, which results in a new world order, and the cycle continues. The big cycle controls everything about civilizations, including how they rise and fall. Because of the constant presence of fear, greed, and envy in human nature, these cycles have persisted from the beginning of time. Various nations have risen to power throughout history. They become world leaders and created a global order after they had greater power than everyone else. According to Ray Dalio, each country's total power can be measured with 8 metrics: education, competitiveness in global markets, innovation and technology, economic production, trade share, military prowess, financial center prowess, and the strength of their reserve currency. These metrics typically fluctuate simultaneously as they increase and fall. The big cycle was divided into 3 segments by Dalio: the rise, the top, and the decline, until a new world order was created again. The rise stage. For Dalio, the rise stage is one of construction, during which 4 tasks are completed by revolutionary leaders. They first make an effort to capture power by outwitting their competitors in the polls. Second, they eliminate or destroy the opposition to firmly establish their hold on authority. Thirdly, they develop useful structures to make sure the country operates smoothly. Fourth, they carefully choose who will succeed them. This stage is frequently linked to tranquility and advancement. Dalio noted that these leaders must have received teaching outside of formal settings like classrooms, such as at home and in places of worship. They can work together and unite behind a single objective because of this. By doing so, they successfully make the switch from making simple objects to making waves in technology. Dalio uses the Dutch as an illustration to explain how they overcame the Habsburg Empire and obtained superior education. As a result, they had greater imaginations and came up with a quarter of all historical breakthroughs, with the ship emerging as their most important contribution. The nation enhanced its thinking by being open to the best thinking in the world, just like other leading empires, and as a result, it grew more productive and even more competitive in the global market. People in this country make more money, which lowers their level of competition. As a result of technology theft by other countries, innovation declines. As one becomes affluent, one becomes more indolent. People take out more loans because they think it would increase their chances of success. This leads to Dalio's next phase of the big cycle, the top stage. According to Dalio, when citizens of these wealthy and powerful nations earn more money, they become more expensive and less competitive in the global market compared to citizens of other nations who are ready to labor for less money. People from other nations attempt to replicate the leading power's tactics and technologies by copying them, which makes the leading power less competitive. Ray Dalio used the British shipbuilders who engaged Dutch designers to create better ships as an example. At a lower cost, these ships were built by British laborers. As a result of their increased competition, the British eventually gained ground while the Dutch lost ground. As people grow accustomed to success, they wager more frequently on favorable circumstances and keep taking out loans to boost their egos, which leads to financial bubbles. Dalio gave the Dutch Empire as an example, which waged more costly battles with the British Empire and other European countries to defend its borders and trade routes. On the other hand, when competitor nations, particularly Germany, rose, the British grew large and bureaucratic and lost their competitive advantages. World War II resulted from this. The United States continues to spend trillions of dollars on foreign wars to retain its global dominance, but it still falls short of supporting its military rivalry with China in the region surrounding China. By borrowing from poorer nations with higher savings rates, rich countries inevitably fall into debt. As a result, when those who keep their money start looking to sell and leave, rather than to buy, save, lend, and enter, the empire's strength falls and moves into the decline stage. The decline stage results from internal economic weakness, which triggers either internal, external, or both types of conflicts. This decrease begins gradually and then accelerates quickly. When a nation's debts grow to an unmanageable level, it's forced to choose between going into default on its obligations or printing more money, which causes domestic hardship. As anticipated, the nation prints more money, first gradually, then massively. Inflation rises as a result of the currency being devalued. As the nation's economic situation deteriorates, as internal strife worsens, a revolution or civil war may break out to redistribute wealth and force the necessary fundamental changes. Ultimately, new winners emerge from the conflicts, whether they are violent or not. These new winners come together to restructure the losers' debts, rebuild the political and economic systems, and create a new world order. Then, the cycle and empire come to an end. A new one starts, and the process is repeated all over again. As far as Ray Dalio is concerned, the only elements of the big cycle that change are the clothes the characters wear and the tools they employ. So what happens next? It is rather simple to determine which stage of the large cycle an empire is in, how fit it is, and whether or not its state is improving or deteriorating using the signs laid out by Dalio. Ray Dalio's principles of life-changing order have reinforced that a man's problem is in himself. And the same thing goes for a country. For a country to succeed, it must make bold decisions for it to achieve success. Everyone must understand their present position and the challenges faced, and make bold decisions to navigate through these challenges. This can be done if we ensure that we earn more than we spend and treat others right as well. What do you think? Let us know in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more financial insights. Thanks for watching.